Welcome to today's tutorial where I am going to show you some tips and tricks how you can prepare your photos for skin retouching or even avoid having to retouch the skin. I'd say let's get started. This is a photo I chose as an example. It's not really a portrait, like a close-up. It's something in between. And so far the whole photo is unedited. The only thing I'm going to apply right now is the lens correction. And off we go. So okay, first things first, some theoretical insights. Let's call it like that. So what you have to know if you edit skin is that usually that our skin is made out of orange pigments, or in the case of photos, orange pixels. No matter what skin color you have, your skin is basically orange. And that's why when you color grade your photos or when you edit your photos, you should pay specific attention to these colors here, red, orange, and yellow, because you can change a lot here, just like. Let's first start with what highlights, shadows, contrast, and so on has to do with skin retouching. If you do skin retouching, what do you want to remove? You usually want to remove some, let's say, blemishes, but you also want to remove darker shadows, wrinkles, and so on and so forth. And now, if you add high contrast to your photos and make shadows way darker than they used to be, or way darker than the highlights. So you have like a big difference between highlights and shadows. What do you think will pop out? Exactly. Wrinkles, bags underneath the eyes, and so on and so forth. So let me show you. I will turn down shadows. This is like really just like for a demonstration. But as you can see here already, you see way more spots around her mouth. You see bags like underneath her eyes, but far more than before. Because now you have like some really huge contrast between here, the highlights, and yeah, the shadows. You could make it even worse, so to say, when you turn on the blacks, or even more visible. Now you see everything that is not flat on her skin. So if you change or edit your photos in a similar way, you will have to retouch all that at a later step. So if you edit your photos, first things you might want to do is try to balance out highlights and shadows. Don't make shadows too extreme. Don't make the highlights too extreme. Try to keep it in a balance and you will save yourself so much time. Another thing, if you want to prepare your photo for skin retouching, is paying special attention to the texture tool. Your photo actually consists of different frequencies. And the concept here is easily described by the terms of edges. So you usually have high frequency areas and rather mid or low frequency areas. And those details of your image, where you have a sharp and rapid change between light and dark, for example, in the case of a single hair, where the edges are really sharp, this is considered high frequency. But if you have a gradual transition between dark and light, you have a rather low frequency. This is important for the texture tool, because what the texture tool does is affecting the mid to high frequencies. All these areas where the edges in your photos are narrow, which is the case with hair, but also with wrinkles or irregularities in the skin or on the skin. And so let me show you. If you now increase texture to 100, take a look at the skin and what happens. You might get the impression that the photo is more sharp now. True, probably. But you can also see all wrinkles. Everything you actually couldn't see before. Or not everything, but a lot you couldn't see before. And the skin looks really, really uneven. And if you now have to edit this later in Photoshop, it's going to take quite some time to even that out again. But let me show you the opposite. If you turn it down, see how smooth the skin gets? Depending on where you edit your skin, you could actually use this, if you apply a mask, to also edit the skin in Lightroom. But one specific area which is super, super important are the colors and this hue, saturation, luminance, specifically in the case of red, orange, and yellow. Why these three colors? Because they are all, as I said before, skin is a composition of orange pixels. Of orange, or not pixels, pigments, but in the case of photo, pixels. And orange is similar to yellow and to red. They're neighbors, so to say, in a color range. That means if you usually have red tones, you usually have orange tones, and you usually have yellow tones in your photo. Let me show you. So we have the red here now. See how the shadow areas change? So first thing first, you might want to take a specific look at the hue and make sure that the colors are even out. Now let's do the same with the orange one. Okay, orange is the color that the skin is mostly made out of, so to say, orange pixels. And you can really, really, really nicely see it here. Take a look at this. How much it changes. Now also yellow. Yellow is usually in the highlights. So if you now edit your skin, first pay attention to the color, because let me show you this again. Let's change the yellow to a bit more greenish. See? So you have really red tones, really pinkish reddish tones. Let's do this more extremely. See all these irregularities over here? You would have to edit this later in Photoshop and even it out again. If you would decide to edit skin like that. You can also see it in her on her hands. Try to avoid this. So try to keep the colors in her face even. And now maybe the worst thing you could actually possibly do if you want to have an easy skin editing process is this. Turning down the luminance of orange. It makes the orange pigments, or orange pixels, sorry, it makes the orange pixels darker, by far darker. Could even do it a bit worse by pumping up the luminance of the yellow. This would be super, 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 super difficult and long to edit in Photoshop. Just try to keep it in a normal range and you will really ease up your process of skin retouching by, I don't know, 100%, not 100%, but by a lot. So yeah, that's actually it. 3 things you might want to pay attention to if you edit skin. This was another skin retouching tutorial and I hope you guys liked it. If you have any further questions or comments on that, just leave a comment below. Let's have a nice conversation and see you